Oh, hey, there we go. All right. Welcome everyone to the show. Sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties. All right. We are live. I'll start this over again. I am Tyra Clark and I am your host, and this is Tyra Talks Paranormal. All right. So I'm just gonna read. I was talking. I don't think you guys apparently didn't hear me. So I'm just gonna start all over again. All right, we're gonna get through this. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Midnight Wolfpack Productions for allowing me to be a part of their team, giving me this platform so that I can, share my story with you guys and allow others to come on and share their stories and their different views in the paranormal. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys. All right, so tonight is my first episode. I do not have a guest tonight. So tonight you all get the pleasure of hearing my story and how I came about in the paranormal field. Okay. It's a new passion of mine. And yeah, I want to share my story with you guys. So tonight we're going to talk about me and how we got this started. Okay. So first of all, paranormal is nothing it's nothing new to me. Okay. I've had paranormal events throughout my whole life. Particularly the ones that really affected me was when I was 14. And I really, at the time, because I'm a Christian. And so the things that were happening to me were very confusing. And I didn't really I didn't know if it was a medical condition or if this was a spiritual thing. My grandmother and I, my Nana and I, we talked, and we thought it was more of like a spiritual thing. But so they, kind of left me with a lot of questions throughout my life. And so, I guess I watched the Travel Channel a lot because I was looking for somebody that maybe had experienced the same thing that I had experienced. So, but how I got into paranormal investigating, I had taken a trip to New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay. And I met up with a friend there and we decided to take one of the ghost tours. All right. And if you've never been to New Orleans, you guys got to go because you're talking about paranormal hotspot. That is the place right there. Okay. So, so we took the ghost tour and, nothing was really happening at the time. And the very last part of the ghost tour, there was a story about, it's called the Zack and Addie story. Okay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But the Omni Hotel in New Orleans, so up in the balcony, so basically Zack and Addie, they were known, he was actually in the military. Okay. And when he got out and he went to Iraq, like I did. I'm a veteran and I went to Iraq in 08. He went to Iraq, he came back and ended up in New Orleans. And so he had ended up working at a bar and he met Addie there. Okay. And Addie, they hit it off really well. And he seemed to be a really sweet, soft-spoken guy, everybody that knew him. And, so they ended up getting together, like I said, and then Hurricane Katrina came through and they were actually publicly known as one of the only people to stay there in the French quarters. Okay. So they stayed throughout that. And then I guess it was about a year after that. But they ended up being kind of like one of those toxic couples because, they would fight and then they would, break up and then get back together. Well, they ended up getting an apartment together. Okay. And something happened. They got in a big fight. For whatever the reason, Zack decided to strangle Addie and he killed her. He dismembered her body. Okay. He then, I don't know, I said that he kept her there for a few days before he decided to do anything, the dismemberment, but he ends up, decapitating her. He had her head in a pan and he was boiling it. He takes off to the Omni Hotel and he gets real drunk and basically he ends up jumping off the balcony and to the parking lot below. Okay. And so, he had a note in his front pocket, obviously, they couldn't recognize him, but they did see a note. And on the note, it said to go and look for Addie. Okay. So they went to the apartment. Nobody answered. So they got, I guess, the landlord and let him in. And that's where they found Addie. Okay. That was the story that on the last part of the tour. I was actually taking pictures up at the balcony and I have an iPhone. So, with the live pictures, but you could see what appeared to be like an orb at the top of the balcony. And then it comes and I'm taking several pictures and it's like coming down to like the parking lot area where he would have been, landed. So the very next day, so that was that. And I thought, well, that's something, but I still wasn't, all that hyped up about it. But so the next day I decided to go to Bloody Mary's Haunted Museum. Bloody Mary I've never personally met her. She was not there that day. She's a voodoo priestess in New Orleans. She has a shop and she has a seance room. And so, in the museum. And so I decided to go ahead and we were going to take a tour of it. They said they could lead us through it and tell us the story as we went, or we could go and then they tell us what happened afterwards. So I was like, okay, we'll just do this, self-guided tour. So we were going through there, and there was a lady and her two daughters with us. There was me and my friend. And so, I kind of like let them go into a room and do their thing. And I would stay back in the other room and I was trying to take pictures and stuff like that. Well, we were in the seance room and I told, my buddy Nate, I was like, why don't you go have a seat at the head of the table? And I was sitting across from him and I started taking pictures and you could actually see, not in the first couple pictures, there was nothing. And then all of a sudden orbs just start popping up around his head. I thought, that's weird. I was like, check this out. And the lady was with us was like, man, I wanted to get something, but anyway, and then we go upstairs and upstairs is just like an old abandoned apartment. And, I didn't know because they didn't tell us the story, but I started thinking about that ghost tour and I was like, this is weird. Maybe this is the Zack and Addie apartment. I just had that feeling, And so anyway, so we ended up going up there and yeah, it was just an empty apartment. It had a stove. It had the refrigerator. It had some, like they set up like altars for the spirits in New Orleans. It showed respect and stuff like that. So there was a bathroom, a creepy bathroom. So while I was in the bathroom, there's actually a mirror on the wall. And I was taking a picture of myself in this mirror. And my buddy Nate, he's walking, behind me past the door when I'm taking this picture. And he remembers this, and I remember him saying this too, but he was like, I'm getting a weird feeling. And I didn't notice any of this stuff that I captured until after the fact. So, but he had actually like the ectoplasma. You guys ever seen any kind of like shows or pictures where it like coming out of their mouth and their ears? And anyway, so he's sideways and it like starts from the tip of his ear and it goes like back like that. It was crazy. So we got that. And keep in mind, this is all around his head. Okay. And then, then later, and then after we left from the apartment, we went back downstairs and there's a courtyard outside. And so we went outside and my buddy Nate was standing in front of me and I thought, well, I'm going to take some pictures at the window. So I started taking pictures at the window and once again, did not know, anything about what was going on or anything like this, but I ended up capturing something in those photos. Okay. It made sense from everything I'm going to tell you about this. So we go back in there. I'll say, okay, what's the story? They say it's the Zack and Addie apartment. I was like, okay, I just had that feeling. And so, but anyway, in the photo, okay, that we captured I captured in the courtyard was actually, if you go and look up pictures of Addie, okay, she was kind of like a skinny, thin face, little tiny female. And it looked like she was looking, it looked like she was looking out the window down because Nate was in front of me. It looked like she was looking down at him. So the interesting thing about this, where I kind of put this together, was because Nate kind of resembles Zack. So I thought, well, maybe he reminded her of Zack, and that's why the orbs around his head in the seance room, the ectoplasma coming from his ear out in the courtyard. It looks like she's looking down at him. We actually capture what it looks like, appears to be her in the window looking down. So that was my first photographic evidence. So that was very exciting. And hello, guys. I'm sorry. I see your comments over here. This is my first episode, so I apologize. I had a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, so hopefully it's going well now. Okay, so I had the New Orleans experience, which was awesome, and I plan on going back there. But at the beginning of this year, I actually went I was looking on Facebook, and they had it's a paranormal event where you could do paranormal investigating. It was at the Fee House. Okay. You guys might not know a lot about the Fee House right now, but I'm sure during this show, at some point, you're going to hear all about the Fee House, because that is what I like to consider my home base. Okay. This is where all this began for me, my paranormal investigating. So I seen the event. It was on Valentine's night. It was called Haunted Hearts. All right. So I take my lonely heart to Haunted Hearts. I had no gear, nothing. I show up, and so they give us Drew and his husband. They give us the tour of the house and the history of the Fee family. And then, he was like, well, if you guys want to investigate, you can, but there was no equipment there. So there was actually another guy, a buddy of mine, Cody, and which I didn't know him at the time, but we ended up becoming friends. He was there. He didn't have any equipment either. So we ended up downloading an app. This is a voice recorder app, right, to our phone. And I ended up, I guess it was like a natural thing for me to talk, hence the name Tyra Talks Paranormal. So I went around asking questions, and he recorded. So the very next day, he ends up, sending me the files over, and I start reviewing them. All right. And I tell you what, like the first EVP that I actually captured and I heard it, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, this is real, there's something more out there. So that's what really that's where the spark that began with the investigating. Okay. So, after that, I had went there several more times. I actually invested in some equipment of my own. I investigated with several different people, even tried to join a group. But, and I'm not knocking anybody, but, people have busy lives. I'm a veteran, guys. So, I have a lot of time. I do have 2 kids and a mom, and we have a little farm, a little funny farm. Okay. But I have a lot more time probably than, some people. And so, we tried investigating together, this one group, which I did share this story, and it's an interesting story. So I might tell you guys about that. But, it didn't work out. So I decided I'm going to start my own group. Okay. I'm just going to do it. I had been writing down different names, and I went on to the website looking for different, like paranormal groups, and I want to make sure I was something different. Okay. Something different than everybody else. Arkansas X-Files. Let me see that shirt, y'all. Okay. First of all, it was inspired from, when I was younger, I always remember me and my sister, we'd cut the lights out, go jump in mom's bed, and we were watching X-Files. Okay. X-Files, you guys, you watched it, you know that they had all different kinds of stuff on there. So I am primarily interested in, the paranormal, like the spiritual part of it, the spirits and stuff. But I do believe in Bigfoot. I believe that there are aliens out there. I believe all kinds of stuff. All right. And so this is on my show. We're going to get all different kinds of perspectives of all different kinds of things in the paranormal. Okay. So yeah. So the group that actually, I was, before I started Arkansas X-Files, I was with them. I'm going to go ahead and tell you all that story. I think we're doing good on time. I got you guys. All right. You guys want a shirt? You just let me know. Okay. And I will make that happen for you. I promise. So yeah. Okay. So back to that one group before I started my group. Okay. So there were 6 of us, because this was every time I go to the Fee House, guys, I get EVPs. Something goes on every time I go. Okay. But this time I was still kind of new to it, and we went, and there were 6 of us, all females. Drew and his husband, they live in the carriage house behind the Fee House. So, when we're having investigations, they do not come over there and they do not bother us. All right. They give us free range of the house. So, we had been there almost 3 hours. Not a whole lot was happening. Everybody's kind of getting discouraged and like, oh, we're ready to pack up and go home. And, so I didn't tell you the story about Stanley. So up in the attic, for whatever the reason, Drew has left this squirrel. It's a petrified squirrel. His name is Stanley. Okay. And Stanley, excuse me, Stanley, apparently one of the girls in the group, no names, she wanted to take the squirrel home with her. Okay. So of course, when everybody's getting ready to pack up and stuff, she rode with other people and they were like, you're not taking the squirrel, with us. And so she was like, can you take it back up there with me? And I said, yeah, I'll take it back up there with you. So me and another female, so there was 3 of us females, went up to the attic, and I'm walking up the stairs, and you actually, like, I have my recorder on. I turn my recorder on just because you never know. You never know when you're going to catch an EVP. And it might not be directly when you're asking questions. It might just be just whenever they want to talk to you. So we went upstairs, and I'd said something about, I think this is his final resting place. And we captured, which I didn't catch until we left. And I was actually in my vehicle on the way home playing it back, and I heard it, but it said, where did all your friends go, in a male tone. So that was pretty trippy. Hello, everybody. All right. Thank you for everybody joining me and supporting me in this journey that I am in. And my world is just crazy right now. Like, I'm just going to go with it, because I have all kinds of people out there supporting me, and they told me, you just be you. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. Okay. I'm just going to be me, and we'll see where this goes. So, but yeah, so that was interesting. That was, and then, so I decided I'm the creator, founder, lead investigator of Arkansas X-Files. Okay. And so I have a couple of my team members. We investigated together at the Fee House. What happened was, Drew, he hosts events at the Fee House all the time, and Drew ended up getting sick. And so he was, I told him, I said, Drew, if you need my help, I've been here several times, and, I pretty much know the history of the fees. So I will, lead these groups through there. I'll even bring my gear, and I'll show them how to investigate. Okay. And so, he was like, okay. And, because I don't want to put his personal business out there, that's for him. Maybe hopefully we'll have him on the show one day and he can tell you guys the history. And then I can tell you some more exciting things that have recently happened at the Fee House. But so I was leading these tours and I had a couple friends. One of them had worked for me. I've done lots of things in my life, guys. Once I was a manager. I was a restaurant manager for Pizza Hut. And there was something inside me just told me, you need to get a hold of this girl. All right. Venetia Setterfield is her name. And it's been years since we had talked, and I said, hey, you want to come investigate with me at the Fee House? And she was like, yes, girl. Yes. So she came on and then another girl who actually we went to school together. And, we actually in school, I mean, we knew each other, but we didn't really hang out or anything like that. But I ran into her at the gas station and was telling her a little bit about what was going on. And she, I told her, I said, hey, if you want to come with me sometime, you can. And so Ashley Tofik, she is one of my team members as well. All right. So, but we started investigating at the Fee House. And, each one of us have different views. Okay, guys, I want to let you all know that, no matter what I believe or anybody else believes, just keep an open mind, right? Like, I'm not going to push my religion on you guys. But that's my core belief and what I feel protects me, So, and my members, they will tell you, their views too. And so I'm not going to share that, but I know that keeping an open mind, and even though we're so different, we can still come together and it just makes sense for us, So we did that. And then we decided to go to the Crescent Hotel. Okay. The Crescent Hotel was amazing. All right. It was like stepping back into the past, just like New Orleans for me. It's awesome. All right. The historical preservation of that hotel. It's also been featured on Ghost Adventures. I believe Ghost Hunters, and Most Terrifying Places in America. I mean, it is one of those spots that, it was on my list of things, places that I wanted to investigate. And so the interesting story about this was, so I was like, I want to go to the Crescent, So the thing about the Crescent, around this time of the year, I think it's a little slower, but usually it stays booked. All right. And so, excuse me, if you don't know the story behind the Crescent Hotel, I encourage you all to look into that because it is very interesting. But I was looking through the calendar. I was just clicking, finally got a date. And I was like, oh, it's the 13th, but I didn't realize it was a Friday the 13th, guys. So Friday the 13th, November of this year is when we actually went to the Crescent Hotel. Okay. And we ended up getting there. We went downtown. And actually the cool story about that is when we first got there, one of my members decided that she was going to get a tattoo. So I was going to get one as well, but I opted out because just for whatever the reason, I opted out. And there's actually another hotel that's very haunted there in Eureka Springs. It's called the Basin Park Hotel. And so right next to that's where the tattoo parlor was. And so while she was getting her tattoo, I decided I'm going to take a stroll in the park. Uh-oh. Am I lagging? You guys still hear me okay? So anyway, I ended up, I ended up taking a walk to the park, and I was looking around. I actually wanted to smoke a cigarette, guys. And I was looking around, I said, no smoking. And then I seen this real steep stairwell, right, going up, like cobblestone. I was like, oh, and I'm a Leo, so I'm adventurous. And I was like, I'm going to go, and I'm curious, so I'm going to go check this out, right? And it was at night, okay? So I walk up this stairwell, and it's pretty steep, guys. Goes up there and then end up at the top, and there's a pavilion. I could have stopped right there at the pavilion and smoked my cigarette, but no, why not? I felt this urge to keep walking. It was the weirdest thing, right? So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go with it. So I was walking and I ended up seeing this like cliff ledge. So I walk over to this cliff ledge and I was like, I look down and it's dark, mind you guys, okay? But I see this like plaque on the ground. So I like lean down there and I take a picture with flash on, and then I turn my camera light on my phone, and I'm looking at the plaque and I'm reading it. It's talking about these natural healing waters. This is what basically is like what how Eureka Springs came about. It was Native Americans believed that it was healing waters. Okay. And while I was reading that, I hear water and I was like, what in the world? So I look over like I put the light over and there is the spring, right? So I just naturally wandered upon this healing water spring. All right. What made this town come about the way it is. Okay. I think everything happens for a reason. Okay. Your life, you just, I'm things are happening right now that I'm just like, I'm just going to go with it. Like I said, you guys, there's a reason I'm in this field. I believe it. And it's not just to help people, which I will. And we've had a couple residentials, investigations. Okay. But the spirits, I think, have a story to tell, and well, my new mission is to get the story out, for them. I'm going to share it with them. And so I'm going to go back to the Crescent Hotel. Now, I know I'm skipping around. I'm like a Quentin Tarantino movie, guys. All right. So we end up going to the hotel, right? We get there and we ended up taking the ghost tour that they had. When I got there, honestly, I want to tell you, I wasn't really feeling much. All right. And the ghost tour, it was cool, but I wasn't feeling, still wasn't feeling, anything really. And I was like, they have all these haunted rooms in the Crescent Hotel, like they're famous, like Michael's room, and I didn't get one of those famous rooms. And I was a little bummed out because I was like, well, and I'm here at a time where how am I going to investigate, other than just doing it in my room or just walking around the hotel? Well, that it is what it is, and that's how I end up having to do it. During the ghost tour, we ended up hearing about Theodora. Norman Baker was a fake doctor. Okay, guys. He came into Eureka Springs promising a cure for cancer. And it was like his cure was, I guess it ended up being like a mix of like watermelon juice and some other things that he put through together, and he would inject these people and promise them, guarantee them that he could heal them within a certain amount of time. Obviously, a lot of people didn't make it. Okay. And so, he was a fraud. He was always coming up with things, different ways to try to, rip people off. He wasn't a very good man. But apparently right across, like I said, I thought, we didn't get a good room. I was thinking, man, we just got to, whatever. 426 is the room we got. But during the ghost tour, right across from us was supposedly this room of the spirit named Theodora. Okay. And Theodora was actually one of Norman Baker's nurses. And because he was so scandalous, he didn't want to, socialize with a lot of people. Because, I'm sure like I would say the FBI or whoever was, looking for him. And, but anyway, what was told to us in the ghost tour was that, she was one of the very few people that he actually interacted with. And she was supposedly right there by where he was at, right below him. So the Norman Baker suite was actually ended up being right above our room. Okay, guys, which we didn't figure this out until later. But so, I went over there to, so it's the Theodora's room was right across, and it said that she would show herself during the ghost tour, that her apparition, she will show herself, and she'll be standing at the door, looking through her bag for her keys. And somebody's even asked her, does she need any help? And then she'll just disappear or something like that. So, I've got my gear out, and I started, trying to, I had my voice recorder, trying to capture some EVPs. Let's see, I had an EMF reader. Nothing happened with that. Nothing happened with the voice recorder. I didn't get any EVPs. I had a REM pod. I put my REM pod out there, tried to ask questions. No, nothing. So I ended up saying, okay, I guess she doesn't want to show herself tonight. All right. So, and that was it. And I went back in the room. And then a little bit later on, we ended up, thank you. We ended up going to grab a bite to eat. Right. So, we were gone for about 45 minutes. Okay. But prior to leaving to go get something to eat, we had set up over in the corner, we'd set up a REM pod. We'd set up the EMF reader, and I also have a camera, and we set the camera up on night vision. Everything was fully charged, by the way. Okay, guys. And so we go grab a bite to eat, and we come in our room, and nothing seemed to be happening. But so when I went in there, whatever, I noticed that the recorder, the camera had went off, like it shut off. And I was like, well, that's weird because, it shouldn't have went off. And so we ended up, like right after that, the REM pod it just started going crazy. Listen, anybody that knows anything about REM pods, I guess I'll go ahead and explain to you guys that maybe don't know what a REM pod is. Okay. So what a REM pod is, it's a round device, right? It's got a light in the center. It's got lights around it. Okay. And it's got a temperature gauge. All right. So it can detect, so it puts off an electromagnetic field around it. So if anything interferes with that electromagnetic field, it will alarm off. If there is a difference in temperature, minus or plus 5 degrees, it's going to set an alarm off. Okay. I used it previously at the fee house, and maybe I had the temperature alarm go off a couple times, maybe had a couple of the lights on the outside go off. But this time, every one of those lights were just, going wackadoo. So that's when I'm like, okay, I need my voice recorder. All right. Because my most captured evidence has been through EVPs, electronic voice phenomenons. Okay. And so I started asking questions. I was like, so who is with us? And we don't hear the actual EVPs until afterwards, because I'll tell you what happened. So I basically asked who is with us. And then at the end of it, I asked, is this a child we're speaking to? And so what happens right after that is everything just cuts off, right? Everything just cuts off. The REM pod, 9-volt battery, it just dies. Brand new battery. I think I had the SB11 out, my spirit box. It dies. The voice recorder dies. Okay. My camera has already died. So I'm like, all right, so somebody can go downstairs and get some AAAs. So Venetia, she stood up. She was like, I got you. So she went downstairs. She came back with the AAA batteries, put them in my voice recorder. And this is when we hear the EVPs that we captured, which are crazy. Okay. So the first question I asked, remember, was who are we communicating with? And it said, tell her she's real. Okay. In like a female voice. So I was thinking on it, and I thought, well, maybe that's that Theodora. Maybe Theodora was like, you know what? I'm going to communicate with you. And I know this is how you listen. So I'm going to talk this way. All right. So, and then at the end of it, when I ask, is this a child we're speaking with? And it was in a man's like real harsh tone, like, no, like that. And I believe that was Norman Baker. Okay. He was all about himself, so I believe that he was offended. This is just my personal opinion, guys. That he was offended that I'd asked him if he was a child that we were speaking to. So that was pretty trippy. And I was like, okay, all right, we got something going on here. So a little bit later, well, we had left to go grab something to eat. You guys know, if you ever go to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, okay, after like 8:00, the whole town shuts down. So that's the reason it took us like 45 minutes, because we ended up having to go to McDonald's. So in another town. So we ended up coming back, and I didn't eat until we got back. So what happens is I went ahead and set up my voice recorder. There was a long dresser, and I set my voice recorder up at the end of it. Okay. And I turn it on, and my team members are sitting on the beds, and they're just having normal conversations. Okay. And so I'm not saying anything. I'm just over there at the other end, quietly eating my Big Mac. And then all of a sudden you hear Tyra, like that. My name was said. And that was like, like I said, for most people, that would be just like terrifying or something if they heard that. But for me, it was just like, like, okay, what do you have to say, And so I just got this weird, like I just was ready for a solo mission. So I grabbed my camera and I took off. And this was like, I want to say like 12:30 at night. And my team members, they end up passing out. But I ended up going out and recording, walking all through the hallways just quietly. It was kind of interesting because if you ever have to quietly investigate, in a place like that, I was trying not to wake people up and stuff. But then I went outside, and another thing that happened while I was outside was, okay, so in the ghost story and tour, they ended up telling us about Michael. Michael was he was one of the workers, the original workers that helped build the Crescent Hotel. Apparently he was a ladies' man, and he was, when they were actually building it, I guess he was on the 3rd floor or something. And, he's seen a nice little pretty lady that he liked. And so he was doing a little cat call at her, and apparently he fell and he passed away from that. So he is actually one of the most famous ghosts at the Crescent Hotel. They said sometimes you may hear like a thump in the night, a loud, like a sack of potatoes is falling or something. So I was actually outside, and I was backing up because I wanted to get a better view of the outside of the Crescent Hotel. And this is like 3:00 in the morning, guys. Okay. There's nobody else. Like the only person that's up that I seen, I went all over that hotel, was the little night guy at the, the desk. And so, I hear this thump, like a loud thump, and it actually captured on camera. So, this is exciting stuff. I'll hopefully get to share with you guys one of these days, so you can see all this stuff that I'm talking about, on my page. But yeah, so yeah, that was really interesting. And then we ended up, we were supposed to go back at the beginning of the 2021 in January, because they have this huge event that they host in Arkansas. It's called ESP Weekend. It's just for paranormal investigators. Okay. And due to COVID, they limited the groups. So, and what they do is they let you investigate the Crescent Hotel and the Basin Hotel. And you, like, one night you're, a group of you would go to the Crescent and investigate, and vice versa, in the Basin, and then you would swap the next night. So unfortunately we tried to get tickets to that event, and that didn't happen. So, it's okay. We got other things we can do. We got other things planned. And so that was that. And I don't know if you guys have been checking out the news. I want to grab my phone. I'm just look. So I know what I'm saying is correct, but let me go there real quick. Hold on 1 second. Let's see here. All right. So apparently on Sunday, this past Sunday, the mysterious monolith appears in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. That metal structure, guys, they've been popping up all over the place, right? And I had to mention this tonight because, I literally just found out about this earlier. It happens again, this time in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. A mysterious metal monolith has appeared at the farm, campgrounds, and events. Yeah. So, so Arkansas X-Files, we can talk aliens too. We'll talk more about that. I might try to see, get a little expert on here, maybe that could give us a little advice. I don't know if this is a hoax or if this is actually something, extraterrestrial or what, but I just found that to be interesting. Let's see here. Okay, so I got a little bit longer to talk. You guys still on there with me? All right. Okay, so yeah, so that was the we did the Crescent Hotel. And then we have since then done a couple places. We're trying to get some local places knocked out. We go on our page, Arkansas X Files on Facebook. We, have been communicating with our people, and we take suggestions if there's any places that they would like us to investigate. We would be more than happy to do so. So we have been starting on that list. One of the first places on the list was Stoner's Bridge. It's just a local place that I think a lot of people know about. But there's a couple different rumors of things happening out there. And so, that's why we investigate, so we can go and check things out and see if we can capture anything. So we ended up going there, and I guess the legend is if you go out there at night, put your car in, cut your lights off, put your car in neutral, that supposedly like some unseen force is supposed to push your vehicle. We weren't out there very long. The first time we did go out there again and actually got out, didn't capture any EVPs, but yeah, supposedly like an accident happened out there. Either somebody had an accident out there or somebody got killed and their body was thrown off the bridge. But thus far, and I will check it out again, I haven't got any evidence from that. Another place was Camp Nelson, the Confederate cemetery that is close near us. And we ended up going there at night, and my team members are a little scared. They thought we were going to get in trouble. So you know what? I said, it's okay, guys. This is what we do. We're paranormal investigators. Okay. I mean, people do this all the time. And I mean, like, I didn't tell you how we go into places, guys. We go into places with respect. Okay. I talk to spirits like they're people, like they're you and me. Okay. Because I feel like, especially at a place like that, me being a veteran, these people, some of them were very young. They had to leave their families, and go fight in a war. They didn't ask for that. They were told, were made to do those things. And, and so, I try to be very respectful, like I said, in any place that I go to. And I always thank them when spirits communicate with me. I tell them, thank you very much for communicating with me. I think a lot of them have a story. But at Camp Nelson, we were out there, we were walking around, and nothing was really going on. And I'd seen on one of my shows on the Travel Channel. It's my secret spot right there. But anyway, I watch it all the time. Seriously, guys, I watch the Travel Channel all the time. But I was watching a show one time, and there was this, they did this experiment where they actually, I think it was in a prison, but they lit a cigarette and they put the cigarette up there, and, supposedly the spirit hit the cigarette. So I thought, well, these guys went off to war. I'm sure back then they smoked cigarettes. So I was going to try the cigarette experiment. So I went out there and I lit one of the cigarettes, and I told them, hey, I said, here you go. And I hit it. I said, I've set it down. And these are fire, I don't know. A lot of you guys probably, I don't know if you smoke or not, but the nowadays cigarettes have fireproof, fire safe in them. And so you literally, to keep them going, you have to be token on them. Okay. So I lit that cigarette. I set it down. I said, okay. I said, here you go. Who wants a drag? Right. I swear, you guys, I have it on camera. It was like the cigarette was just going red, 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 red. Like it was like somebody was sitting down there hitting it. It was crazy. So that's what we had done recently. And then this past weekend, we ended up going back to the Fee House, right? And so we had a couple of guest investigators. These guys just started a group. And so, they knew that I co-host tours and lead tours at the Fee House. And so they were very interested in the Fee House. And so, they said, hey, can we join you? And they wanted to do an overnight. I said, yeah, I can do that, And so we ended up going, and I met them there. And when I got there, I guess apparently I was supposed to tell him the history, but Drew had already told him most of the history from what they told me. And so then I just basically took them through the house and showed them the spots where these events happened in the house, you know, some of our hot spots. And they kind of went off on their own little investigation. So I ended up going into Mammy's, she's one of the spirits there. We got Frank Fee, we've got Mammy, which was the husband of the household. He had Mammy, his wife, and they had Frank Jr., they had Edward, they had Catherine, okay, and Thomas. I don't want to leave Thomas out. But yeah, so I want to tell you guys this story because here recently, talk about in being enlightened. I have been very enlightened. Okay. And, as far as like what I do and why I'm doing it. And this, I feel like, you know, in the beginning, it was just, I'm going to say more of like an interest or curiosity and capturing these little EVPs here and there and these things happening. And it's, you know, putting it together. It's like a big mystery. But here recently, this past weekend at the Fee House, it was crazy, guys. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about, we got about 10 minutes. Okay. So I think I can do this. A little bit about the Fee family, because they are very, very important to me. Okay. Because like I said, this house, although it's not very well known yet, I think you guys will know a lot more about it in the coming future. Because I have some things planned. But Frank Fee, the house was built in 1896, I believe. Okay. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But the Fee family did not move in until 1920s. Okay. 1920. So before then, it's weird because it's like the history before the Fees. It's like, you don't really have good history of, before them. So, nobody really knows a lot about what happened. So, you know, that's a pretty decent amount of time, you know, what's it, over 20 years, right? Before the Fees actually moved in. And, so long story short, they basically, the Fees move in. Frank Fee, he was very predominant in the lumber field. Okay. So everybody knew him. He was out of town a lot. And unfortunately, Frank Fee, he passed away when he was 62 years old. Okay. And he passed away from a heart attack while he was out of town. Though his body was brought back to the Fee house for the wake. All right. And then you have Mammy, which was his wife. Okay. She was in her dressing room. These are some of the events that happened. She was in her dressing room and she was in a gown. It was her son, Edward's wedding. And she was in her gown and she was drying her hair. She had just taken a shower and she was drying her hair over the stove, and she ended up catching her gown on fire. Well, their maid, Amelia, was there. She was the only one in the house with her. She ends up coming in there and putting her out. Okay. But because of Mammy, you know, because of her beliefs, I think she was a Christian Scientist, but because of her beliefs, and the fact that it was her son's wedding, she didn't want to mess up his wedding. She didn't tell anybody, guys. And unfortunately, Mammy ends up passing away from, you know, severe infection and burns. And so then after Mammy passed, there ended up Catherine and her brothers were arguing. Okay, so they have the family parlor and they have the music parlor downstairs. And they were fighting about whose fault it was that Mammy had passed away. So Catherine ends up going upstairs and grabbing a bottle of acid. Back in the paper, in the Democrat, back when they were around, it was stated in the paper that she had she had a headache and she'd accidentally went up there and grabbed this bottle of acid and drank it. But her daughter, Patricia, which was 9 at the time, tells a different story. Okay. She tells a story that her mother, Catherine, and her brothers were having an argument about whose fault it was that Mammy had passed away. So she ends up going upstairs and getting this acid and basically drinking it. It was very horrific passing, right? So there's that. That's happened, okay, in the house. Mammy happened in the house. Frank didn't happen in the house, but he ends up coming back to the house. Then after they end up moving out later, Edward ends up joining the army, and he ends up getting into a really bad airplane accident, and he passes, okay, at a younger age. All right. So they had tragedy and death follow them. And then another woman, an older lady, she moved into the fee house, right? And she ends up having a guest over, and the guest fell from the stairwell and broke their neck. So that was another one, which we don't have a whole lot of information on that person either. But yeah, that happened. I love you, sister. I see you. I see you all. I'm going to get better at this. I promise. Next time we're going to be interacting a lot more. So if I have somebody else talking, I can start talking to you guys too. But so yeah, that's the story of the fees, and that's what we're told. And you know, I got 5 minutes. I could get this out. The fees told me a different story, guys, this past weekend. Okay. They told me, I mean, it's a roundabout, but here recently, one of the things that I've added to my equipment is dowsing rods. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever used them, but dowsing rods have been around for years. Okay. People have used them for all sorts of things. They have used them to find water sources, lost items. It's all about, they're like copper rods. Okay. And basically, from my understanding of the rods, okay, and me using them, when you hold these rods, right, you are basically, you can think a question. You don't even have to speak it out loud, but they're connecting with your energy, right? And they go in a neutral. You have them in a neutral area. You hold them, and then for the answer yes, they're going to cross. For no, they're going to go all the way out. And then, like I said, neutral is back in the middle. And we had a phenomenal dowsing rod session in Mammy's dressing room. I'm going to end up telling you guys more about this later. But yeah, it was just like, and we have it recorded 2 different angles, you know, where I'm asking questions, and, you know, they'll be in the neutral zone area, and then I'll answer a question. It'll either say yes or no, and then it goes back to the neutral zone. I mean, it was just like on point, and it was almost like I was guided to know the kind of questions to ask them. So I found out like their story, the different story. And we're going to talk more about this. I promise you, the things that I captured, because I've never in my life experienced anything like this. And it was just, you know, when you really got the spirits communicating with you. So I can't imagine what it's like to be a medium or something like that. I don't have that ability. In fact, I don't claim any labels. I'm just Tyra Tammy Louise Clark. In fact, the only one in the world. You can Google it. Okay. But, you know, I do feel like the spirits know that I will listen to them, and I'm going to share their story, you know, and I'm going to try to help them in any way that I can. So that's my goal. We got a couple minutes, guys. So there's a couple things that I want to say. Well, first of all, the show following this, it starts at 8, is going to be Texas Paracon Talks with my girl, Natalie Jones, and her co-host, George Shoplin. I love them both. They're wonderful people. And I purchased Natalie's book, Awaken the Higher Self, Bringing Darkness to Light. And she's one of the main people that have inspired me during this journey, okay, that I'm on. And so I will definitely be talking more about Natalie Jones later. Everybody in my life knows right now that I'm like her top fan, I'm telling you. So you guys check that out. That's going to be at 8. But I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. And I will be bringing guests on. And like I said, we're going to be talking all things paranormal. You know, we want to just put love and positivity out there. You guys be nice to each other. You know, be true to you, be you. That's what somebody else told me, the words of the wise, and you know who you are. And that's what I'm trying to do right here. I want something a little different for you guys. Okay. I hope you enjoyed my story, and I will see you next time on Tyra Talks Paranormal. Bye, guys.